Alright, so I've had my coffee. Feeling much better than the last video. Jeez, but finally we have made it to the top 10 of 2019. Oh my gosh, it feels like yesterday that I was doing my top 10 of 2018, for goodness sake. But we're here anyway, and I cannot wait to talk about this year's list, of which I have something different, a little different, planned for this video. What I'm going to do is, I still have honorable mentions, I still have a list of 10 films, but because I reviewed about 5 of them on the top 10 list, I won't be talking about my thoughts on the film in this video. So let's say Avengers Endgame, which is somewhere on the list, not going to say where, but when that comes up, I won't be talking about it. I'll just point to a link which will pop up in the corner there. You can click that and you can go to my review for the actual film itself and get my full thoughts on the film. I just don't, it would be better that way. That way I could save time in the video, and also you can go and watch my other reviews. So that's what I want to do for this video. So if there's a movie that I've already reviewed earlier this year, I'm not going to mention it. I'm just going to point, essentially. But nevertheless, let's move on with the honorable mentions. What are the honorable mentions? Oh, they're on my phone. I'll be back. Starting off the honorable mentions with 21 Bridges, Then, Yesterday, Crawl, Brightburn, Shazam, Toy Story 4, Knives Out, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That last one, actually those last two, were going to be on the list. We're going to be in the top 10, which would have made it technically top 12 list, but I had to remove them. I just removed them anyway because, I don't know, there was just something about them that wasn't as good as I thought that they were going to be, that being Knives Out and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Good movies, but not as good, not good enough for me personally to be on the top 10. But, speaking of the top 10, let's get into it. At number 10 is one that I actually have already reviewed, Alita Battle Angel. You can go to that link right there and watch my review. At number 9 is Spider-Man Far From Home, which I have also reviewed. Most of this video is just going to be me pointing. But moving on with number 8 is Fighting With My Family. I also reviewed that one, so you can go check that one out too. Good luck. Anyway, at number 7 is Us, which I also reviewed. Thank God the next one I haven't reviewed yet. But Us, go watch my review for that one. At number 6 is Rocketman, a movie that I watched recently and loved. Man, this movie, when it started out with musical numbers, because surprisingly I was like, hey, this is a musical. I haven't watched a really good musical since La La Land, and I love that movie. I love Rocketman because all the musical numbers are Elton John's hits, basically. Like, could you ask for anything better? But they really worked in the movie because it was almost like they had a story-based reason for going on these musical high notes or whatever. Like, they were in the movie for a reason. There was a purpose for them, and the best musical does that. I also really love Taron Egerton as Elton John. And like so many people have said, where the hell did that come from, man? This guy was from Kingsman. I didn't think he was going to give an Oscar-worthy performance ever, but he did with this movie. There's a scene, I really don't want to spoil it, but there is a scene where Elton is in a room talking to some people who aren't really there. Usually a scene like that could really fail and really not work and just come off like really cliche and trying too hard. But that scene was so well done because it's almost like the whole movie is building up to that. And man, I was crying. I don't know how. I don't know. I was just crying. Anyway, at number 5 is Ford v Ferrari. Man, I loved this movie. It was so good. Okay, I haven't watched a really, really good racing movie since Rush, which was a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago, but a long time ago for me. It's a while ago. And similar to that movie, this movie is very fast-paced with the racing scenes. I mean, James Mangold, he needs to make more movies. I think I said this when I reviewed Logan, because he directed Logan. And he directs this. Of course it's going to be a good movie. Man, Christian Bale and Matt Damon gave two phenomenal performances. I did not see them. I don't usually say that about Matt Damon because I see him. When it came to Matt Damon this time around, I did not see Matt Damon the actor. I saw the character that he was playing. And almost all the time, in contrast to Matt Damon, where I don't usually see the character, with Christian Bale, I always see the character, and I definitely saw the character again with this performance. I did not see one bit of Christian Bale. He is so good. I love how much he commits to roles. He is truly one of this generation's best actors. And to top off my thoughts on the movie, I want to say that I really like some of the cinematography in the movie, because there's a shot that I still remember where Christian Bale's character is fixing a car and he's thinking about racing. And behind or in front of him, alright, there's a plane transporting cars, which reflects a shadow behind him on the wall where the shadow of the cars are going by his head while he's listening to a radio transmission or whatever, listening to a radio broadcast of a race. It's just, you got to see that shot in the movie. You got to see it to understand what I'm saying. It's just like, I love this movie. But the next 4 to 1, these movies are far more slowly paced than all the other movies that have been on this top 10 list. And I don't know, I guess they're just more slowly paced. So we'll just move on with the fourth one, being Ad Astra. This movie, I did not expect it to be this high up on my list. It's just, when I watched it, I really liked it and put it on my list, and it kind of just stayed there. Like, nothing really, like, put it down or made it go up, or it just kind of stayed in this part of my list. Brad Pitt gives another phenomenal performance. Very different from what he did in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but what he does in this movie is excellent. Very subdued, very not like a Hollywood performance. It's just, he feels like a real guy. And Tommy Lee Jones, surprisingly, when he came into the movie at a certain point, I was like, I'm not seeing Tommy Lee Jones, I'm seeing the guy he was so good. And as I said, this is one of those slowly paced movies. It's a slow burn, which some might think is boring. I've actually talked to a couple of people who said that they didn't like this movie because of how boring it was. I loved it. I loved how slowly it built up its character, played by Brad Pitt. I loved how it, like, peeled back the layers of his character. The whole metaphor of the movie of a son, like, going in search of his father, which in also doing that is searching within himself to see how much like his father he really is or isn't. I don't know, there's just something about this movie that stuck with me. Even though it's a fairly simple premise, and it's a space movie that we've all seen before, this was so much more deeper to me. And I don't know, I just really like it. Maybe I need to see more space movies. Anyway, moving on with the third one being The Irishman, which I watched on Netflix and not at the cinemas because I didn't have the option to, but if I did, I'd watch it at the cinemas. Anyway, regardless of that, I love this movie. It was very slow. Way more slow, I think, than Ad Astra. There was a lot of time put into this world that we were thrown into, and a lot of time given to the characters. It's a Martin Scorsese film, so of course it's going to be like a masterpiece, and I will say it is a masterpiece. But it's very slow, which I don't mind. I tend to like that, and everyone gives really good performances in this movie. The only reason it's not higher up on my list, like say number 1, is because the de-aging effect I did not like in this movie. There's been some praise about the de-aging effect in The Irishman, but I really don't get why people liked it so much. I thought it wasn't as good as like the other times I've seen it in other movies. And also, like, Robert De Niro's eyes were really blue for a majority of the movie. And I know his eyes are not blue. So it's like, I know, the de-aging and all that was throughout the entire movie was just setting me off, and I was like, no, I don't like what I'm looking at. But regardless of that, the writing, the acting is so well done, and like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, The Irishman is the stuff of cinema. It's a film. If you want to see a film, not a movie, just one film that invests you in the world that you're watching and into the characters that you're engaging with, all that stuff, The Irishman is how to do it. Moving on with the second one being Avengers Endgame. It was going to be at my number 1, but I don't know, a movie came out after it that I was like, damn, if that ain't a film, and I don't know, I can't say anything because I don't want to spoil my number 1 pick, but Avengers Endgame is at number 2. I already reviewed it. I didn't talk too much about it though, because I couldn't spoil anything. I felt like there was a gun to my... Anyway, Avengers Endgame, what can I say that I haven't already said, which I didn't say that much? It's a great movie. I mean, it was more of a slow burn than Infinity War. Everyone says they loved Infinity War more than this one, but I don't know, I guess I kind of like Infinity War and Endgame, like, equally, because even though one is more fast-paced and the other is more slow-paced and more of a character-building film. I like them both equally for what they are. And both of them being like part 1 and part 2 of an epic conclusion to 11 years of the MCU. So that's all I gotta say. Moving on to the number first pick is... Dun 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 dun. I don't know what I'm doing. It's Joker. Joker is at my number 1. Can you believe it? Joker is at my fucking number 1. I didn't even think this movie was gonna be good. But then when I watched it, I was like, that is both a superhero film and a film, like, so... I don't know how else to say it. I haven't reviewed the movie, because I kind of stopped reviewing DC stuff a while ago, so I didn't really want to review this to keep consistent with that agreement that I made with myself. That agreement I made with myself was like around the time Batman v Superman came out and Suicide Squad came out and a bunch of other weird shit. So there is a video coming in the distant future. Yes, distant, because I don't have anything planned yet, but I want to review all the DC films. Because a DC film has been creeping... DC films have been creeping their way onto my top 10 list over the past few years. Like Wonder Woman in 2017 was my number 2 pick. Justice League was an honorable mention last... No, Justice League was an honorable mention in 2017. Aquaman was an honorable mention last year. And Joker is at number 1 for this year. Crazy. But yeah, Joker, such a good film, and I don't want to say anything because, as I just said, I have some long overdue reviews to do for the DC films. Not just the DC universe, but all the films. That is in the distant future, so don't get excited for it yet. Anyway, yeah, I guess that's my top 10 lists. How long have I been going for? Holy shit! That's a bit too long for my liking. Anyway, fuck, I wanted this video to be short, and it ended up being so long. I will see you in the next video.